Hi, I said as the door slid open. Captain Sunlight wants to know how your translations are going. Coles sighed. They're going. This one's a mess. He shook his lizardy head, brick-red scales dull in the light by the doorway. That part of the translation suite was always dim because Trilly liked looming in the shadows there. But today, she was at the workstation in the back, surrounded by glowing screens and a cloud of irritated hisses. "I think we missed a language," she announced, snapping her pincher arms and angling her antennae into a scowl. "What, really?" Coles asked. He ran a hand over his head, scales clicking quietly. "How many is that now?" "6, sis," Trilly hissed. Coles grumbled something I didn't catch and walked back over to the workstation. Curious, I followed and let the door shut behind me. "What kind of project is this one?" "Old records of a multi-species colonizing effort," Coles said from his floating chair with the tail hole. "The originals are lost, and all that's left is this jumble that's been translated through a succession of languages, none of which they bothered to write down. And they want us to figure out what the originals actually meant." "Sounds tricky," I said. Each of the screens held writing, most in languages I didn't recognize. Some were notes in the trade language we all spoke, and I was amused to see how much swearing was in Trilly's notes. "It is very tricky," Trilly agreed, jabbing a little wrist finger at the screen in the middle. "The grammar doesn't match the words, and the idioms are an utter tar hole. It's anyone's guess what culture came up with some of these details." "I'm pretty sure the bit about rocks is a strong-arm saying," Coles said. "It makes more sense than a Frillian interpretation." "Yes, fine, probably," Trilly said with an irritated wave of her pinchers. "I'm stuck at this part that goes off on a tangent about the family arrangements of the wildlife. It's clearly significant, and at least one layer of translation wanted to make sure the full interpretation was spelled out, but that just makes it more confusing." "How so?" I asked. I'd gotten the job on this ship because of my animal care knowledge, so maybe I could offer some insights. I peered at the screen. "This part," Trilly said, "is a recounting of a colonist's experience in retrieving goods from a shuttle that crashed in a lake. The water creatures seem to have complex social arrangements, and somehow that relates to their behavior toward this particular colonist." She folded her pinchers and leaned back, glaring at the ancient diary. Of course, this had to be written by someone disinclined to speaking clearly. "What kind of behavior is it?" I asked. "Are we talking mating advances, or aggressively protecting the young, or—" "Aggressive," Trilly said immediately. "This word means mouth, possibly teeth specifically, and in the grammatical arrangement that it's currently configured into, it has to be saying that the thing bit the colonist." Coles flipped through documents on another screen. "Do we know what the official name for the creature is?" Trilly hissed. "Not even close. That's what this whole tangent is. An attempt at describing it. I'd love to know if it was the original colonist or someone later who decided it would be helpful to tell us that this creature's ancestors rejected social bonds." "Rejected how?" I asked. Coles brought up another document. "I've got something on the legal system of the original colony. Sounds like there were multiple types of family arrangements at play. Possibly this colonist was just musing on a similarity to their own life." Trilly hissed. "How does that help us? I don't see any accounts of this person's family life or even their species. We have no way to know if their own parents performed the socially accepted rituals or not." "Wait," I said. "Is this about the animal's parents not doing a certain ritual? Like marriage? Is the colonist calling the fish a bastard?" Both of my alien co-workers looked at me. Coles asked slowly, "That's an insult in human circles, isn't it?" "Yes!" Trilly threw her pinchers skyward and stalked away from the workstation. "Of course it is. You people are sentimental about everything, including reproduction. This would have been so much simpler if we'd known from the start that there was a human layer to this." "So what does it say?" I asked. "The colonist went into the lake to help with the crash and got bitten by a bastard fish." Trilly was walking in circles hissing, so Coles scooted in front of the center screen. "Going by what we've figured out so far," he said, "the colonist was trying to move salvage from the shuttle, walking through shallow water. The water creatures were of many bright colors. It goes into detail about that. comparing them to refractive prisms and sea spray. But they kept their distance as long as the colonist kept moving. Pretty sure this part says one came in for a bite as soon as the colonist stood still. And that's where we go off on an elaborate description of the creature's family arrangements. I grinned. Dear Diary, today I waded through a lake and got bit by a rainbow bastard fish. Terrible experience. Wouldn't recommend. Coles looked closer. It does actually say something like that afterward, he admitted. There's a suggestion that the next person to enter the water wear protective clothing. Over Trilly's aggravated hissing, I said, that colonist might have been a human. Might indeed, Coles said. He scrolled up through a page of notes. That could actually shed some light on a couple other spots now that you mention it. Trilly appeared beside us. Bring up the part about the colony leader mating with someone's mother. I laughed. I can tell you right now that that's an insult. The colonist is likely complaining about the boss, not describing something that actually happened. Coles looked at Trilly. Told you we need an insult chart. Trilly tilted her head dramatically. That's so much work. So's this, Coles pointed out. How about you take another look at what we've got so far here, and I'll start a list of common human insults. Trilly took a position in front of the screens, hissing quietly. I'll be happy to help, I said to Coles. My people are very creative on that front. So I gather, Coles said. He scooted over to me, digital notepad at the ready. And not one of those insults revolves around eggs. Mind-blowing. Well, I said with a tip of my head, there is the thing about teaching your grandmother to suck eggs. That's kind of an insult. What? Coles said. Never mind. I can tell this is going to be a long list.